Welcome back to Luke's Properties YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you a property that I purchased 18 months ago for £95,000. I'm going to show you how much money I've made, and I'm also going to run through my expected returns over the next 4 years. Let's get into it. So first things first, let's run through how much this actually cost me. So my deposit was 25% of the purchase price, which is £23,750. And I got this deposit from profits from my rent-to-rent business. My next cost was my stamp duty. Now, my stamp duty in Wales is 4% of the purchase price, so this cost me £3,800. My next cost was my solicitor cost. Now, because I purchased this property within a limited company, I had to pay additional solicitor costs. If I purchased the property in my own personal name, then my cost would have been significantly cheaper. But because I bought within a limited company, I've had to pay a bit more on my solicitor fees, so that cost me £2,000. My next cost was my mortgage broker fees. So I pay a mortgage broker £295 every time I get a mortgage. Now my next cost was my refurb cost. Now you might be thinking £4,000 isn't much money, and it isn't much for a refurb in today's day and age. I like to buy houses that are almost ready to be rented out as they are. I like to do a minor refurbishment on them, mainly painting, decorating, cosmetic work, and then rent them out for slightly more than they were renting before. So all we really did with this house is I painted and decorated the whole house myself, which didn't cost that much other than my own time and sweat equity. We added some new taps to the bathroom sink. We also regrouted throughout the bathroom, so in between the tiles, we just cleaned those up. And we basically used what was already there and just improved it. We haven't gone and put a whole new bathroom in or a new kitchen. We've just improved what's already there, put some time and effort into it. Again, very similar to a rent-to-rent refurbishment where you don't want to spend too much money, but you really do want to improve the perceived value of the property so you can then go and achieve as much rent as possible and find a good quality tenant without spending too much. And we also furnished this property, which meant my total capital employed was £33,845. So now we've gone over how much the house cost me. Let's look at how much the house has been generating in terms of income. So we currently rent this property out for £1,000 a month, and that's including the bills. So gas, electric, water. We've also put Wi-Fi in there as well. So we rent it out for £1,000 per month to two nurses who work at the local hospital. My mortgage on this property is £326 per month. That's an interest-only mortgage. So I'm only paying the interest, not the principal loan. My next cost is the maintenance. So I always like to put around £50 per month aside into a pot. I think it's always wise to have a contingency. My next cost after maintenance was my insurance. Now you always have to buy landlord insurance when you buy a property. Our bills come to £294, which gives me a net income after all of my costs of £300 per month in net passive income, which works out to be £3,600 per year. Now, what I always like to do when I'm buying any house is I always like to work out my return on capital employed. In other words, how hard is my money working for me? And a minimum benchmark that I like to achieve and many other investors would be happy with is at least 10%. If you can get 10% return on your capital employed from the rental income alone, then that to me is normally a clear sign that it's a good investment. Because remember, with property, you don't just get paid from the rental income, you also get to benefit from the capital appreciation when the asset increases in value over time. So if you're getting 10% return on your capital employed from the rental income, and say the house price increases by 5% per year, which historically is very common and actually quite reserved. If we say it increases by 5% per year and you're getting 10% from the rental income, then you're actually benefiting from a 15% return annually on your capital employed. And if you compare that to say a high interest savings account at 4%, by buying property, you're outperforming a typical savings account by around 11% per year. So how I like to work out my return on capital employed is I take my annual net income of £3,600 and then I divide it by my total capital employed. So in this instance, that's £3,600 divided by £33,845, and then I multiply that figure by 100, and that gives me a percentage-based return on my capital employed. So my net income divided by my total capital employed times 100 gives me a return on capital employed of 10.6%, which for me is good enough. I'm happy with that. So I've showed you how much it's cost. I've showed you how much I'm making per month, per year. I've showed you my annual return on capital employed. Now let's move on and look at what happens as time goes on. I bought this house 18 months ago for £95,000 and today's value is £100,000. So already in 18 months, the house has increased in value by around 5%, which is nothing to rave about, nothing to sing home about, but at the same time, it's a sign that things are moving in the right direction. But what's even more exciting is house prices are set to rise by 26.4% by 2028 in my investment area. So what I want to do now is run through those numbers with you and show you the magic of buying and holding property over the long term. So here's my 2028 numbers. The value of the house would have increased to £120,000. Remember, when I bought it, it was only £95,000, which means my equity would be £48,830, up from £23,750, which was the initial 25% that I put down 4 years prior. The rental income that I've received, based on £3,600 per year for 4 years, and this is reserved, by the way, because rents do actually increase by around 5% per year. But let's keep it very simple for you and just say that rents have stayed the same. I've had the same tenants in there. So say these nurses have stayed in there for 4 years and I've had £3,600 per year from those tenants. Now, because I bought the house as a limited company, I have to pay corporation tax on my rental income. Corporation tax is around 19-20%. If we take that 20% off of my rental income, that's going to give me a post-tax income of £11,520. Now would be a great time to refinance the house as it's increased in value substantially. So I'll go and get a new mortgage based on the new value of the house. So my new mortgage will be £90,000. I'll use that mortgage to pay off the old mortgage of £67,500, and then that's going to leave me with £22,500 in tax-free money. I say tax-free money because you don't pay tax on a loan because it's a loan, it's debt. So in theory, you can't pay tax on that. I'm then going to put that tax-free money with my post-tax rental income, and that's going to give me a total of £34,020. Now, considering I only put £33,845 into the house initially, at this stage, I've basically got this house for free because I've got all of my initial capital invested back out of the property in my pocket to then use. Now, rather than going and buying a fancy watch or a new car or going on extravagant holidays, as some of you would do, smart, savvy investors will then use this money to go and buy another house and repeat the process. And this is how wealthy people intelligently leverage debt to grow and scale their net worth. If you've made it this far, then you definitely take your property investing journey seriously. And as a token of my appreciation, I've included a free buy-to-let course in the video description below. So click the link and this will help you further your buy-to-let education. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to like and subscribe and feel free to comment so we can continue the conversation. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.